Bowl season is here. Moving on to Monday, January 2nd. We got the Citrus Bowl. LSU taking on Purdue. LSU already up to a 15.5-point favorite in this spot. We're seeing it at 14.5 for a lot of last week. Total has come down a little bit. Was at 56.5 all the way down to 54 here the night before the game. I do have a play on this game. This is not a strategy I love using all the time, but give me Purdue plus the 15.5. It's an official one-unit play for me. If you've watched me at all on this channel, I've said that I think LSU is the most overvalued team in college football. You have to give them credit. They did play well at home this year, as you might expect, really outside that Tennessee game, but away from Baton Rouge this year. Just 1-5 against the spread. Obviously lost outright against Texas A&M there at the end of the regular season, but pretty much deserved to lose at Arkansas and Auburn. Where does it all start? It starts and ends on the offensive line. 6 separate times this year, Jaden Daniels has been sacked 4 more times. It would have been 7 if he didn't exit that Georgia game early. This offensive line is below average unit, and that's even considering Daniels is a very mobile quarterback. You would think he'd be able to escape pressure better than a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, yet it's been an issue for LSU all year. So this Purdue defense, they're a little bit leaky in their secondary, and we'll kind of get to that in a sec, but I really like the way they play within their front seven. I mean, we saw them totally dominate against the run against teams like Penn State, Syracuse, Minnesota, Maryland, even Illinois, some teams that can really line you up and play bully ball. I like the way Purdue looked up front in some of their tougher matchups. I think they'll be able to stop the run here. Give LSU credit because they don't have a lot of elite talent at that running back position. I mean, Josh Williams is a walk-on after all. They've gotten a lot out of it. I don't necessarily think that they have a clear edge in that area going against Purdue's defense. Like I said, though, Purdue can get a little shaky in their secondary. I'm going to admit that. I mean, they are a 15.5-point dog. I will say, though, Jaden Daniels, just 7.5 yards per attempt this year through the air. He's taking care of the football well. He's obviously a threat with his legs. I'm not necessarily afraid to go up against him in the vertical passing game. Another key element, 2 of LSU's top 3 receivers won't play in this game. When we saw Kayshon Boutte declare for the NFL draft the other day, I thought that was an overrated unit for LSU all year. A lot of hype for guys like Boutte coming into the year and, never really saw the production match that. But those guys are talented. So, with 2 of their 3 top receivers out, I think that passing game gets a little bit worse. Really why this line is so high. Purdue, no Aiden O'Connell, no Charlie Jones. That's basically been their whole passing game this year. I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. In steps Austin Burton for Purdue. Now, this is a guy that's a senior already. Hasn't really started a lot throughout his college career. He's played at UCLA. He's played at Purdue. He himself is no threat in the vertical passing game, and I'm willing to admit that. In his limited time at this level, over 70% completion. So I think he's shown you that he's at least going to give you a high floor at that quarterback position. Not going to be one of these guys that comes in and goes, 10 for 25. So I think at the very least, a capable backup for Purdue in this spot. Really the one area that I've been critical of Purdue over the years is a lack of commitment to the run game and then just kind of a lack of effectiveness in that area. Well, that kind of changed this year with freshman Devin Mockabee, almost 1,000 yards on the ground, over 5 yards per carry. I think he was a walk-on coming into the year. I mean, this guy was a godsend for Purdue, a big reason why they ended up in the Big Ten championship game. So we have seen LSU's run defense start to slip a little bit in recent weeks. I mean, remember a few weeks ago in that A&M loss, they allowed almost 300 yards on the ground and really got handled up front by a pretty weak A&M offensive line. So I do think Purdue will be able to do enough in the run game. They're going to get the ball out of Burton's hands quick. I haven't loved this LSU secondary really all year. They're not at full strength themselves. I think this LSU defense, much like their offense, and a big reason why I think they're the most overvalued team in the country, I just don't think it's the typical LSU defense that you're used to dealing with. Suffice to say, I said this off the top, I don't usually love taking big dogs like this. It's just not really my forte. But with that said, I'm 4-0 this year, betting against LSU away from Tiger Stadium. When you have a bad offensive line and your defense is being overvalued, you shouldn't be a 15.5-point favorite against a formidable opponent like Purdue. I know Jeff Brom is gone. It's actually his son. He's going to be the interim coach of this game. I don't really care about any of that. With the specific issues LSU has, 15.5 is too much. They've shown it all year, and I think they're going to show it again here in the Citrus Bowl. Purdue plus 15.5 is an official one-unit play for me.